Yo and hello once again, my rowdy friends, and welcome to another edition of the Rasslin Roundup. This is Rowdy Chris Lee Moore coming to you once more. My normal tag team partner, John Paul Weber, is not available at this time. He's off in the wilderness somewhere, I think. So, a couple of people I got here as replacements for this midterm edition. First off, he's the host of the DukeCT Lounge. Welcome, Mr. Charles Thomas.
Well, what's up, ladies and gentlemen? It is me, your interesting co-host here, ladies and gentlemen, DukeCT here, live, not only the host of the DukeCT Lounge on Thursday nights, live on TalkShoe.com. I also do my little show, Last Reviewer Standing, and trust me, the review will be coming shortly. The 50th review will be coming shortly, so y'all gonna really enjoy that. So. Stay tuned.
And also joining us, he calls himself the last of the Americans, Mr. James Ferracci.
Pleasure to be here, Chris. Nice to see you, Duke.
No problem, man. Let's get this thing started.
Yeah, we're gonna probably eventually later on maybe talk about some of the more interesting events that have occurred in the world of news wrestling, as we're still a few weeks to go before the next major pay-per-view SummerSlam. We're definitely gonna talk about that big time next time on it. But first and foremost, the reason I wanted these two individuals on this show, this edition, it goes back to another reason as to why I basically decided to start this podcast in the first place. Because I wanted to give, after all of my loud-mouthed, annoying wrestling mark videos that I've got some critiques and criticisms from, even members of my own friends in the reviewer community, wanted to give some of these individuals their chance to voice their views on a forum that I hosted. And one of the big topics of, obviously, when I'm hosting this show, and most of the guys we talk about, we're mostly going into WWE because that is the primary source that I myself in particular watch. I have watched some others, maybe smaller promotions I'll probably talk about later, but this is the one chance I was going to give the opportunity for these two individuals to bring up their views on another individual promotion that they both seem to have the idea might be starting to surpass WWE in terms of quality. But first and foremost, let's do with both of these individuals what John and I first did on our original pilot podcast. Let's talk first with DukeCT as to how he eventually got himself into the pro wrestling game.
Well, it was when I was a kid, when I was like 3 years old. My dad took me to see, I believe, like a wrestling show with Hulk Hogan on it, and I saw it, liked it, as a 3-year-old, and then I found out, about WWF's Monday Night Raw. Watched that in between, like after Fresh Prince. I watched the hour, 2 hours of that on Raw's War. Then I found out about WCW, and then it just snowballed from there.
And let's hear how James himself became a wrestling fan.
Well, it was back in '96. I was just flipping channels at my house, and I was with my brothers, and we stopped on the New Year's Eve, actually the New Year's Day version of Monday Night Raw. They had the Rose Bowl thing, and I was amazed by the characters. I was amazed by the athletistry. It was poetry in motion. I remember the first and only live show I went to. It was 2 weeks before the death of Brian Pillman in '97. That's how far back I go as a pro wrestling fan. And I remember the Montreal Screwjob, and I've had my ups and downs with WWE, so I've been a fan, and it's been like that.
So obviously we talk, as all of you listeners out there could hear, I've invited on two individuals that have definitely been into pro wrestling longer than myself, since I didn't get into the whole thing until 2002, to the point where, like I said before...
Yeah, you missed the Attitude Era, dude.
Oh, yeah, just the...
and not only that, but you missed the 80s and such, which, by the way, and a lot of people seem to, you gravitate that thanks to network, but there was so much good stuff there, not just in WWE, but other places, which hopefully you will get to know soon and such.
Absolutely.
Plug
I said I'm
Climax
so
over
yeah. Like I said, I'm so young as far as a wrestling fan that remember the very first WWE show I ever watched televised in person, I later learned was the very first episode of SmackDown after they officially changed their name to World Wrestling Entertainment in, I believe, April or May of 2002.
I think it was April. I remember watching April, and
Yeah.
they had turned it to WWE, and a friend of mine, John Ross Santos, he was a little upset about that change. He still calls it the WWF, probably to this day, and if he hasn't,
I think I know why. It's just people don't like change and everything. It's, it's the same type. I mean, the show still is there, but it's WWE. But it's something that it's still controversial in some aspects. But you know what? I moved on from it. I got used to it after a while. Just gotta get time to used to it.
Yeah.
What's interesting that you brought up the Monday Night Wars and the Attitude Era just a bit because obviously that's probably the most well-known instance in which WWE had any form of competition, so to speak. And while there might not be another wrestling promotion as big as WCW was back in that time during the Monday Night Wars.
Well, there used to be a couple years ago, but we're not going to say it out loud because it is what the hell, we don't even talk about it.
Well,
technically, but we'll get to, one day we'll talk about it. One day.
Perhaps we'll get into it. Well, the main part that I'm about to get into is that even though there's not a promotion that might not be at the huge competitive level that WCW was, we are in a time period where, thanks to wider, broad spread media and the internet and other forums that they can transmit their product, there are more and more wrestling promotions being at least getting in some view of the public eye, as far as the wrestling fandom goes. We'll talk about that one that James does not want to mention. There's also Ring of Honor. And then there's the one that basically I decided to go ahead and make the subject of this podcast because both of my co-hosts for this issue do claim to be fans of the promotion. Although it's technically not a promotion, as we'll get into. I'm talking, of course, about Lucha Underground. Which,
exactly.
Which technically, like I
said this every time it's on Twitter. I'll say it again. It's one of the best hours of pro wrestling right now.
Exactly, Duke. Duke, you read my mind because to me it is the perfect blend of athleticism and storytelling. 5% storyline, 95% of the action happens in the ring.
Well, sometimes you have some good storyline stuff there too. The best stuff I like about it is that every match seems to lead up to something. Every match is that actually mean they matter. Matches matter. There's a goal to accomplish.
Exactly.
Remember those are days I actually liked about wrestling and such. And believe me, when we get to the later stuff about WWE, because they had a breaking match thing for Raw, I'll get out if you're gonna get to that, Chris. Because trust me, I got something to rant about that. But it's this type of stuff in the Lucha Underground. To make something simple as say the tournament, the Kratos Cup, and make it seem important and make it seem the best thing out there. That sort of thing. It makes it seem so important to everything out there. The show everywhere. Have everyone in that arena fighting about for the championship, for a chance to be a champion, and the stuff that the follow of it. So even if you lose, there's probably going to be at least a storyline, at least something in that match for, the people who watch the show and everything. It's a very interesting time.
Well,
you said it perfectly, Duke. I don't know if you can hear me, but I'm clapping you, dude. Congrats.
Thank you.
Now, of course, I'll at least be the unfortunate There's a reason I'm basically allowing my two co-hosts to do much of the talking so far is because I'm going to be the one to admit that I don't watch that much or any of Lucha Underground. And before anyone accuses me of just being a WWE elitist, I'll point out the fact that I have watched other promotions in the past, even in my relatively smaller time. There was, of course, I may have brought this up in earlier episodes, that one time there was a small independent production called PCW that operated right here in the Metroplex. They held shows back at the grounds of the old Six Flags Mall in Arlington. They had a TV contract. It was broadcasted on KTXA Channel 21. It was only just about 10 to 12 years or so ago, and I used to go show up at those events all the time because they put on a type of almost miniature localized version of Raw and WWE. It was very character and story driven. Guys like Action Jackson and Main Event Mike Fox, and it really was a sense where you had your own full-on smaller WWE style promotion in my own backyard, which was very entertaining for me. And that's the number one issue that I've always had with, at least where I see most of the indie productions going, is that too many of them, they're getting too primarily focused, almost exclusively focused on just the in-ring performance without having a storyline to carry the match and get people vested and give them a reason to want to watch a so-called athletic performance that, let's face it, the majority of people know is completely fabricated. But I have kept hearing people like Duke and James and writer's block Jeff Winnup, who's been on the show before, saying that Lucha does at least have some focus on storyline.
Well, yeah, it does. It has more about storyline. It's every person in the show has a purpose to be there, and some of the men and the women. And I know you put on Twitter you don't like this, Chris.
I was just about to get to that because I was going to give you guys the chance to, of course, further explain the whole storyline driven. But if you want to get into that.
There's a ton of storylines, including the gods and stuff, the mysticism of it.
Let's not forget Marty Martinez, who's about few shy of full load, and how he obsesses over women.
Oh yes, he is. Does women? He's creepy. Well, I can't say creepy little bastard because Christian already took that gimmick, but
I would call him a creepy bastard who needs to be shipped off to the wacky shack and never released.
Yeah, that type of stuff, that type of deranged crazy inside.
And then we have of course the Worldwide Underground and how their leader Johnny Mundo, aka Johnny Nitro or John Morrison, whatever.
Yeah, John Morrison actually is bad because no one remembers Johnny Nitro. In fact, I tried. Only thing I remember him doing was being Eric Bischoff's guy for whatever reason.
Well, I remember his
do anything, and then you just forgot about it. Then he became John Morrison, and boom, there he is.
I remember his time with M&M's. I mean, was with a tag team with Joey Mercury with Melina as their valet. I mean, that
was fun, but that was a fun tag team. Also, when you look at the stuff, you have Rey Mysterio. You have he's looking pretty good in not only his storyline but also everything else in the ring work as well. You have
unless we forget Sexy Star, the first woman to ever win a major championship. I don't mean a major championship, the major championship in a professional wrestling organization.
And the story was actually good. In fact, I say that story, Sexy Star's climb to the championship, was more interesting and engaging than anything the WWE did with the whole Divas Revolution, which was just having pointless 6-on-6 tags for 10,000 light years. While who was the one? Brie Bella, or was it Nikki Bella, who was the champion? Who was hurt, by the way. That's why she couldn't drop the title. And the reason why they let her hold that belt for so long was to break AJ Lee's pointless record, which was just to me foolish and just really petty. I mean,
Exactly.
why would you, and I still had this whole, and she was injured. I mean, if she's hurt, why put her in these matches? And when she's the champion, that means she has to do more press junkets, all this type of stuff, though, right? So I would say, hey, let her drop the belt and say a house show or something like that. Heck, you know what? They should have, instead of introducing anyone of these team bands and team everything else was, they should have just had a tournament and say, since Nikki Bella cannot compete for the Divas Championship, we are going to have a tournament. A tournament to decide who is going to win the championship, and it all comes ahead of SummerSlam or something like that. And you could have Stephanie say, introduce the 3 people in NXT. You could introduce Becky Lynch. You could introduce Charlotte Flair. You could introduce them in matches and stuff like that. In fact, you had Son of Madness, introduced in the Cradle Cup and everything, and that sort of thing. Why couldn't they do something like that? It bugs me.
Well, it wasn't the first time.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'll just try to briefly say that. Look, wouldn't have been the first time that I saw that they allowed someone to hang on to the women's championship while injured, because if they were keeping Nikki on TV, at least that was better than when Trish Stratus was out of action for like 6 to 8 months back around 2005, and they still kept the belt on her.
You are preaching to the choir on this one, Chris.
Yeah, because at least they kept Nikki on television in some form or fashion. That's at least you got that. But I do want to bring up. You started to slightly allude to this, and I'm going to admit, I'm sure that some listeners are probably wondering then, hey, if Lucha Underground is that whole, it does have more story-driven promote angles than maybe some of the Ring of Honors or PWG or any of the other promotions, then what is it that's holding you back from watching it? Well, one of it is probably just I'm a very ritualistic person, which doesn't I just don't think to look up where and when I can find it. I know it's available on Netflix now, possibly on YouTube, but YouTube's and wrestling, they've got their problems, which maybe we'll talk about at a later date. But there's one big thing that just keeps holding me back, and I'm willing to say this on the air and take flack for it. It's just this idea of them, supposedly one of the big things that they promote is all of these intergender matches. And I don't want to come off as some kind of sexist, because I love watching the women's action in WWE. In WWE, but I see these matches, the idea of matches where they basically allow guys to beat up on the girls. I think back to stuff like when Stone Cold Steve Austin hit Stacy Keibler for no damn reason because she wouldn't drink a beer. That basically just go back to a lot of the stuff that I listed on my worst things to happen to WWE women video I did a few months back, and there's just a part of me that it just makes me uncomfortable.
I can feel you. I feel you on that, because sometimes I look at that, it's a little jarring and such too. I mean, but yet you also have to realize that when you have to realize that the ladies on there want to have, I want agency. Let's have they phrase it more of an action show. Like, hey, why can't the women and the guys toss up? I mean, heck, you have I think who was Melinda May on Age of Shield taking on guys and gals who are much more powerful than they are, and then she holds her own, and that sort of thing. And yeah, it looks like uncomfortable. They do get beat down, but at the end of the day, though, like I said with Sexy Star, she can say, I want to do this. I want to get in the ring. I might get beat up, yeah, but at the end of the day, I will climb myself up, and then you think that I won't be a hindrance or whatever. But at the end of the day, I will come back and I will hit you 3 times as harder and everything else to win the crowd over. That to me shows that these characters have more agency. They're more more powerful, more more.
They're more badass.
Yeah, badass. Yeah, that's the thing. More of action than any of the divas or anything else, or the women's wrestlers right now WWE. I mean, what the match Sexy Star won the Lucha Underground Championship in is the Aztec Warfare, one of the most violent And
Yes,
just
I love the Aztec Warfare matches. They
yes,
are they.
that
I I remember seeing Aztec Warfare Dos and seeing the Monster Matanza Cueto, and I thought to myself, "Ay Dios mío, everyone's gonna become a pan caca."
yeah, exactly. And it felt like yeah, it was like if you don't know, ladies and gentlemen, Aztec Warfare is where you think the Royal Rumble, but it's basically better as you not
Yeah,
only you don't if
think of
you
it more like the Royal Rumble meets a, a continuous match where after one opponent comes in, boom, 30 or 90 seconds later, in comes another, and you can't beat him by tossing him over the rope. You got to pin him.
or
1, 2, 3.
submission or
That
submission
that too.
like a certain wrestler we forgot to mention who was basically the so-called the mascot of the Lucha Underground, Pentagon Junior or Pentagon Dark as he
Pentagon
now called.
Dark.
Yes, which he basically one
Zero,
of his
zero fear.
yes, Cero Mero. And I know someone's gonna get that. But anyway, it's him. He gets his nice little move there. He does it to appease, I think first season he
It
did
was
with
first
Jesus
off
God.
Vampiro,
Yeah,
which
Vampiro
turned
for
out
his God. Then he broke away from him. And then after that, he just does it now for fun as he just breaks people's arms because, well, why not? Because, hey.
Well, I'm gonna.
yeah.
Okay, I would do want to give you guys the opportunity. You've talked about a number of different characters, different angles that have been going on within this. I always have to say show and hesitate to say promotion because what this is. Correct me if I'm wrong here. What Lucha Underground is, it's technically a television production that just recruits independent wrestlers to come in and just work for that individual show. Is that more or less how it happens?
I think so. I think that's how Dario Cueto does his thing, but the people behind the show have got like the lucha
Yeah,
companies from
yeah,
Mexico.
Lucha, yeah, AAA and everything. Even though right now they're doing other with that certain promotion that will not be named, but the local promotion we could call it that. But it seems right now when you look at the what's going on in Lucha Underground, the future of it, is some of it might be in doubt. I hear. Supposedly everyone wants to do a season 4, but there's some people are there's like one guy and it's something is going to be up there and we don't know if it doesn't happen to El Rey. I think it might be going to say it's a home that people have been waiting for. And I honestly think this is going to be more interesting if this is going to be the case. It looks like if it is going to be a season 4 and season 5, I think it's going to be on Netflix. I think if somehow Lucha Underground can become like a Netflix-owned show, I honestly think they'll be like 5 steps ahead of the game from WWE right now.
So,
No joke.
So I want
I
to
think
hear ya.
Yeah. So I want to at least give you guys the opportunity to suggest what would be your favorite performers in Lucha Underground, maybe past and present, although there's not admittedly that much past to talk about if we weren't talking about 4 seasons so far. But who would like
3
your
seasons.
favorites? Yeah, who would be your favorites?
Well, honestly, from the there's a lot of them. Dragon Azteca, I like him. I also like the new incumbent Dante Fox. Like I said, Pentagon Dark is someone I always can't wait to see. There are so many others, like I say, Sexy Star, Taya, Evilise, who I hope she injured her ankle early in the season, but hopefully she'll come back for Ultra Lucha Dos. Ultra Lucha Trace. Yes.
No, we already had Ultima Lucha Tres. Oh, no, well, wait, we didn't have Ultima Lucha Tres. We had Dos. My apologies.
No worries. But yeah, there are a ton of them, and including like Johnny Mundo and also Worldwide Underground. I like those because their characters. Everyone has a purpose on that show. Everyone seems to have a purpose, and I just again, I love this show, and it feels like. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, all like we're talking about all these characters and pretty good and found great matches. They it's only done in 1 hour. They don't have like 5-10 hours of Raw, right? Everything else. They only need to do this in 1 hour.
Yeah, that's what I also like about Lucha Underground. It's 1 hour. It doesn't drag. It's not WrestleMania 33 bad. Being up at midnight was a pain in the neck, and I was bothering the hell out of the people that I live with. So trust me, an hour is perfect. And I love the good guys of El Dragon Azteca Jr., the Mac, Sexy Star, Killshot, Dante Fox. And of course we got some bad guys like the tribe, the two tribe. Well, actually, the rabbit tribes, the funnier of the two.
The Rabbit Tribe, I think they're just the chaotic neutral, you would say?
Yeah, I think they would be too. But the bad guys, in terms of some of the people I like that are the bad guys, definitely the lizard tribe, or the dragon tribe. How they got Drago to turn on both Aerostar and Phoenix. Ay, Dios mío.
Interesting, yeah. Like Aerostar stuff, which is good too. I think it's going to be very interesting how that's going to move on.
And what about what's going on between Phoenix and Melissa Santos?
Yeah, again, there's good storytelling there. And it's probably going to be a better storyline. I bet this is going to be a better storyline than the last time WWE did the whole, announcer with wrestler falling in love. At least Charlie Haas is not there knocking Melissa Santos out of the ring.
Exactly.
So, just in case anyone listening out there decides they want to check this show out, would you guys care to inform the listening public out there where exactly they can find Lucha Underground across the many media outlets?
Well, you can find it is on Netflix. That's one good place to go look for it.
I heard it's also on Amazon Prime.
And on iTunes, too. You can find them on iTunes as well. And if you have our Ray Network, which is like only in 40 million homes, but if you do find it, you can definitely check that out there. It's on Wednesdays at 8 p.m. And such. So trust me, it's really good in an exciting way. And, hey, like I said, the whole 2 seasons on Netflix. And honestly, if you want to wait till season 3 ends and then you can pick it up, I guarantee season 3 is going to be on Netflix soon. So just watch the whole thing and you're going to probably be in love with it because that's what it is. It seems like it's just so, the Lucha Underground is pretty much I wouldn't say a love letter or something like that, but it just seems like a way of honoring Lucha Libre, but also getting the nice sports entertainment, but also the mysticism and everything else. And I just wish there was like some type of an American version of that, or something more American-centric there, because it seems to me that is the way the wrestling should be. WWE could do that.
We had one of those, Duke. We had one of those about 10 years before Lucha Underground. We had Wrestling Society X, and that tanked like the Titanic.
But the reason why it is MTV, I don't think they really supported it.
And
I think they didn't.
And that's a subject probably for a much another time. Where we could probably spend another whole hour or so talking about some of the struggles other promotions have in getting good promotion in this United States of America. That's a subject for a whole other time. I'm sure I'm going to talk about it once. But I do want to, first off, yes, hopefully my 2 colleagues have done their best to explain another outlet of wrestling that is available, one that I have admitted do not know that much about. Hopefully this is something hopefully I can introduce guys to other types of wrestling promotions available across the entire world if I could find more guests who know information about those other outlets. Now I guess we can move on to some of the wrestling news that has sprung up recently. Like I said, we're still a couple of weeks away to SummerSlam, which means next time we record in 2 weeks, we'll probably at least talk about that and maybe some other big news. But a couple of big things that happened recently. First and foremost is probably the event that everyone kind of saw coming. WWE and Eva Marie have officially parted ways.
Hallelujah.
Now, believe me, I'm hearing a lot of that.
You know what? A lot of people say, "Oh, everyone." I'm like, you know what? seriously, Eva Marie played her character correctly.
Yeah.
And honestly, a lot of people don't. I mean, to me, it's funny how people hate on her or anything else that she's not a wrestler or anything else. But yet, most of the time, I see some of these women wrestlers out right now can barely get a pop, barely get any cheers or boos. At least she can actually drive and give some passion to the audience. Because sometimes I look at some of these audiences and such. I mean, for example, Natalia, she gets like maybe some reaction. That's because basically the Bret Hart remix the song she has, and stuff like say Emma and Dana Brooke, and list goes on and on. And I mean, there are some women who just don't get any reaction at all.
I actually have a theory about that. I'll probably talk about that on a future episode. But my take on Eva is actually very similar, and Duke kind of stole my thunder there, but that's okay. It's just that, yeah, the main thing is that, first off, I've always said maybe she wasn't ever the best in the ring, but I still say she was a better worker than Sunny or Sable or any of those divas of the Attitude Era, and at least was more willing to put in like the effort. And this is the one thing that I keep thinking about is obviously, especially after the second brand split, her role was more or less to be a foil for the other higher up women's performers like Charlotte or Becky Lynch or Sasha Banks. They were going to play up her supposed you can't wrestle persona and basically be someone that could be worked off of. A role that clearly Lana is being groomed for and being used for right at this time. And I've been saying this for quite a while now, not just the women but the men as well. If one thing WWE needs more of, it is more jobbers. I think that they need to be having more matches on Raw and SmackDown that you put the top talent up against a much lesser talent in a shorter match where the sole object is to build up the star more and hype the bigger matches.
I hear you. I hear where you're coming from, Chris, but here's the thing. She may have tried her best, but she just didn't work. Do you know where these people got noticed of Eva Marie for? Do you know what Eva Marie is most known for? Not her in-ring ability, and yeah, maybe she may be the punchline every now and then, but she was the star of a reality show, Total Divas.
Yeah.
That's it.
But to be fair, I honestly think she could have been an interesting manager or something like that. But to the point of the jobber thing, I agree, but I think someone like Brian Alvarez and his stuff said, you know, it'd be better instead of just wasting time and buying these talent, like for example, like say Jinder Mahal or all these other guys, and they have on their roster, which is way too big. Just hire somebody for like for $200, some local guy or gal for like $100 or $200. Give them for exposure, and bada bing, bada boom. You keep their top talent protected. You make sure that, hey, these guys are the top of the top, and it could be anybody up there. And by the time have a lower guy have Jinder Mahal beat, when he was jobbing, have him beat some local talent up there. Protect him until they face the higher talent and everything, instead of just seeing them lose over and over again. By the time they do win or anything else, most people will not really, take them, the guy or the gal, any seriously. They won't.
And this is actually a very good segue to go into, because obviously I think one of the big reasons why we seem to be having a lack of jobber matches on Raw and SmackDown, that I think could actually do a better job of just building up all of your superstars so they're not constantly facing each other and one has to get put over, but also it would also delay and better hype those matches by keeping them exclusively on pay-per-view shows. Obviously, one would think a big reason they're doing that is to try and boost ratings and satisfy the USA Network on those shows. Which brings us to probably another big announcement that was just recently made. I know this is one that's been grinding on Duke ever since it came up. Obviously, we're coming into SummerSlam, where the big main event is the Fatal 4-Way match for the Universal Championship. Brock Lesnar defending against Roman Reigns, Samoa Joe, and Braun Strowman. It's a match I'm actually looking a lot forward to, but
me as well.
But in the meantime, they're trying to figure out what to do with these guys to help hype it up, which is why apparently it's been announced this coming Monday on Raw. It's Roman Reigns versus Braun Strowman in a last man standing match.
Well, I said this on Twitter, and I'll repeat this. It is paraphrase. It is basically a pointless match where the winner will the winner of the competitor the match will get nothing, and it just throws away another potential money match on a pay-per-view. Because hey, that would actually mean something. Say, hey, who's the better person there? And a lot of people crapped on Cena versus Shinsuke Nakamura. And I get that. I talked about my podcast as well. And the one thing, at least I would say about that match, is that at least it was meant to do something. It was actually to make it. There was a prize for the winner, a shot at the big gold title, WWE title. There was something there. But what is the point of this match? What is the point of having these big matches on Raw where there's no type of there's no hype? No. There's been a little bit of hype at least, but there's no real
payoff?
Consequences. No payoff, no consequences. Why should I care if Braun Strowman or Roman Reigns wins or loses? It means nothing, and they damage their bodies for no reason.
Exactly.
So why is this match happening? Oh, because
the ratings.
The ratings. Like I said, the ratings are they're not going to improve. No one's going to bounce numbers because of this. And they're doing this, and it's, I think this is something what Chris talks about. It's the Smarks, they care about good matches, but no good stories. This is what they want. And I'm just like, man, the last man standing matches and everything else, they're good matches, but no matter how great this match is, it will be rendered meaningless because, again, there's no real reason for these two guys to fight. There's no good reason for them to. Oh, wait, there are reasons because Braun Strowman and Reigns hate each other, but there's no payoff. Nothing.
Yeah.
There's Sorry for ranting. I just had to get out.
No problem. I kind of get what you were saying. And James?
Here's what I think about what's going to happen in this fatal four-way. We know that it's going to be these four big monsters trying to duke it out. And I think with this last man standing match coming up on Monday, I think it's just trying to, for the ratings, and there's no point to it. I agree with you, Duke, on that. Here's the thing. With this match, if Brock wins, we're not going to see that belt till Survivor Series, and that's not what I want in this championship. I want to see this championship defended at least once a month by a good champion.
I will have to interrupt you right there, but I'm sorry for this, but I think I don't mind Lesnar taking away the belt. The champion does not need to be on every show. I think that should be apparent. I think that's the reason why most people. I like Lucha Underground. Heck, Johnny Muno's not on every show. They show clips of him, but yet he's not on every show. He's not doing all this type of stuff.
I hear where you're coming from.
And I miss that. Like a champion should be wrestling every. I'm like, no, it doesn't. It means
I don't want a championship to wrestle. I want to see the belt. I want to see.
Really, you want to see the all red everything belt?
Okay, I'm sorry. That was I. It's just. I don't like seeing a belt defended only once every blue moon. It's not good for that belt.
I guess I do get the feeling that you will, if Brock does retain at SummerSlam, I think we might see him again before Survivor Series, though I'm not sure whether or not Night of Champions is a Raw or SmackDown pay-per-view this year or not. That may be a driving force.
Could be a joint one.
Perhaps there. But I will say, you talked about this last man standing match and how just you're gonna have just Braun and Roman just beating the crap out of each other. Again, the number one concern that I would have of that is that you got more and more risk of these guys getting injured before their big match, which of course brings up the other big, as the other big news that came out, because apparently it's now been announced that Bayley has been pulled from her title shot match against Alexa Bliss at SummerSlam because she injured her shoulder last week in her match against Nia Jax. And so just the fact that you have these...
And let me be real with you. I'm sorry. Bayley and Alexa Bliss should not wrestle again for a long periods of time. The last time they had that match, it was probably the last match they had, pretty much destroyed Bayley. And I'm like, why are they still fighting? Why are they still trying to make this a thing? This character needs, and I don't want to root for someone to get injured, but this could be the best thing for her. This could be the best thing for her to just to relax, to recommit, and recommit to her character, and try to be something better, because these past months were just terrible.
Yeah, she needed more time to build herself back up, in other words, before she could get another legitimate title shot. Yeah, and I do kind of get the feeling that putting her in the match instead of Sasha Banks, who I've got my own issues with them, and we'll talk about them later. I almost think it was a knee-jerk reaction. And like I said, I'm not too worried about her. Look, she'll bounce back. It seems like a similar injury to what Ember Moon suffered in NXT a few months or so ago. And just for those who think that, keep in mind, and I'll just throw this out there, for those who think that, I've had some people suggest that Nia Jax needs to be sent down to NXT because she's dangerous because they injured their beloved Bayley. Hey, no one was calling for Asuka's head when she hurt Ember in NXT.
Can I say something real quick?
Sure.
Go ahead.
Who's going to replace Bayley now that she's out?
Well,
Sasha.
Yeah,
I
clearly
think this will probably be, and honestly, just use this as heat. I know people are like, oh, why did he? I'm like, well, use it for heat for, for Nia Jax. It could actually read for a character. In fact, here's the thing in history of wrestling and such. Back in the day, fellow Chris Benoit accidentally injured, I think, Sabu back in ECW with his, Sabu was doing a power drive or something. So instead of getting all upset, they said they leaned into it. Say, okay, let's do something with this character. Let's do something, and make him the crippler. And that type of it built up and made it into something interesting there. And I think you could do the same for Nia Jax. Say, yeah, and make Alexa and her be a team. Let her be like her Diesel to Alexa's Shawn Michaels. I know I'm stealing it from PS Power, one of the dudes I watch on on YouTube's and everything. But that would be a perfect combination. Nia Jax could be her Diesel, Alexa Bliss's Diesel.
Yeah, let's just hope Nia Jax doesn't be Diesel. Remember 95 WrestleMania 11, how Diesel did not impress the fans when he retained that belt?
Well, to be fair, I mean, heck, that show was garbage anyway. They couldn't save that show. And besides, looking at some of those, I think I get a shout out to Red. I think who's the guy on Twitter?
Yeah, I know. The NWO Wolfpack guy. I know exactly who you're talking about. And I've been wondering about eventually bringing him up again, because this is a big guy. Yeah, this is a guy. Yeah, he's on Twitter. He's a big time old school wrestling fan. He goes, one of his crusades online is to go on and try and debunk the claim that Kevin Nash, aka Diesel's title run in the mid-90s was the worst championship run in history, based solely on the fact that was when Raw's ratings were at their absolute lowest. He's also talk about the fact that that was a time period where neither WWE or anyone cared about television ratings. It was all about selling tickets and pay-per-view buys and merchandise. And he just runs down all these numbers about how much attendance they drew, not just at pay-per-views and house shows and whatnot.
Oh yeah, And he goes real into stuff like that, Google Analytics about, hey, for example, people will say, oh, Roman Reigns is not popular. Boom, he proved that right there. Roman Reigns is really popular, and heck, showed that not even it was him. It was like him, Goldberg, and everything else right there. And then you saw Owens barely get a blip, and you see like AJ Styles. In fact, he went really deep, like in the house shows revenues. He showed that AJ Styles only got like 4,000 people to show up in these house shows and everything else like that. So, it's very interesting and telling that people believe, oh, these guys are money, but they're not really that money. It's, that sort of stuff there. And I love NWO Wolfpack TV, and I got, that dude is on point. And also, when I look at someone like, when you go back and such, when you look at, like, we go right back to the conversation here, Alexa Bliss and such, I think she actually does get that whole. I think she's right now. They need to have her hold the championship. I think a little bit longer. I think she should be more like I said, like Shawn Michaels or something. Have her win more, cheaply or something like that, and then maybe have Bayley win the title back eventually. Maybe, or they can just bring up, say, Ember Moon or Asuka to do something with that. I honestly think, personally, I think Asuka should take a loss, have her lose to Ember Moon, have Asuka, just go to the gambit and everything, and have her Asuka win the championship at WrestleMania against Alexa Bliss in a singles competition, not in a three-way, not in a four-way, one-on-one.
Well, I highly doubt whether or not that's going to happen for my other reasons, and I don't know. I wonder. I do think Asuka will be called up very soon, and probably Raw will be the best place for her to go, just because they've got a lack of good babyface that I think they are legitimate. Of course, I'm hesitating to call Sasha a babyface just because I think her character's got a lot of problems. I'll probably talk about that in a bit of time, but either way, we'll guess we're just gonna have to wait and see this coming Monday as to what exactly the future of the Raw Women's Championship match is going to be, and just hope that Braun and Roman don't get themselves hurt again, which they've already done before. That's the other thing you got to worry about, is they've already done it before in what has admittedly been the biggest drawing feud in WWE so far this year. So you can't fault them too much for trying to milk this cash cow. You got to give them that much.
Yeah, but at the
I
end
hear
of
where
the
you're
day,
coming from, Chris.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but you have to be, the show has to be, well, entertaining and such. And right now, Raw can be, but sometimes it just feels like just busy work sometimes. And when I get that feeling, especially when I look at, say, I cut off like for the Raw main event team and everything else. After that, I don't care. I don't care about Enzo and Cass. I don't care about any of the women's division. I don't care about any of that stuff. So most basically with SmackDown too. I don't care about most of the stuff there, which is sad because I want to care. Regardless if they're indie or anything else, I just don't care about any of these characters because, again, it's just everything just blends in with each other and there's nothing mattering, no real stakes, nothing. There's no real characters that are just, I mean, you have baby faces who are idiots. You have either baby faces who are idiots who can't win when they need to, or you have heels or villains, as whatever you want to call them, basically are trying so hard to really be mean, but in the end are just, they don't have any good real reason to be. They try to be snarky but fail miserably, and they just basically, they're boring for the most part. The heels are not really that interesting, and the faces are not really interesting.
Well, I do want to thank both of my guests, Charles Thomas and James Faraci, for being able to get their thoughts out on both, not just the current state of WWE, but one of the possible alternatives that people have out there in Lucha Underground. So definitely want to thank both of you for being on this show, especially in Mr. Weber's absence.
Pleasure's all mine. Pleasure all mine to help you out, dude.
Yeah.
No problem. And hey, you know what? It was a fun little thing, and hopefully we can do this again real soon.
Yeah.
I have an idea. Why don't we tell them where we can find us on like the Facebook, on
Absolutely.
social media.
Yeah, the Facebooks, the Twitters, and what are those kids are doing these days?
Yeah, I'm on
absolutely.
Facebook, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram, Snapchat, on Donner, Blitzen, all Santa's reindeer.
You can find me on manexpression.com and also
I'm
on
there too, Manic Expression too.
vid.me, YouTube. Well, for the time being at this point, but hey, eventually, they'll find a way to get rid of me soon. But until then, you can find me on YouTube, also on Twitter, and on Facebook.com/DukeCT Productions.
So be sure to check back next time in about another 2 weeks. I believe John Weber will be back from the wilderness, and I hope to have a number of other guest stars in, because this is going to be I have a really big subject hope to tackle for the SummerSlam issue of the Rasslin Roundup. Until then, once again, thanks to Charles Thomas, thanks to James Faraci, thanks to all those who are listening out there in the online universe. And until next time, this is Chris Lee Morris saying, stay rowdy, my friends.
Backstreet, yeah.